My hands shook as I fumbled for the strap of my backpack outside the austere doors of the committee room. All week, rain had battered the glass facades of the University of Paraná. And now, in late October, the clouds hung heavy, smearing the world in gray. I pressed my palm to my chest, trying to find a steady rhythm in my breathing. The thin folder with my manuscript inside felt useless in my grip. Inside, 3 professors waited, real writers with gray beards or neat bobs. Known for their sharp reviews and sharper tongues. The oldest, Professor Brandão, gave me a flickering smile. Dr. Silvia, my advisor, kept her lips pressed in a thin line. Brandão got straight to it. "We appreciate the effort, Mateus," he said, like he'd already decided what needed to be said. "But we don't see the academic rigor here. And this," he gestured at my manuscript, "is ambitious, but not feasible for a thesis." I fumbled to find words. "It's a novel, yes, but—" Silvia cut in. "It isn't research, Mateus. These are dreams. The committee cannot approve a project solely on creativity, much less this subject. Why not consider literary analysis? Or edit your submission in line with our feedback? You could find much merit there." I kept my gaze steady, though my insides roiled. "I want to try. I believe in this story. It matters to me." There was a pause, heavy with the hollow sound of ambition hitting a wall. Brandão's chair scraped slightly as he shifted. "There are ways to channel passion, my boy, but novels aren't a profession, at least not in Curitiba." The phrase echoed in my mind as I thanked them and left, each step echoing down the marble hallway. My feet felt weighted with shame. Outside, the sky finally cracked open, rain slicing through the city like glass. When I got home, I found my mother on the sofa with my aunt and uncle. The TV blared a telenovela, but their conversation was about me. They must have seen my face, pale and hollowed out as I slumped in, because my mother quickly muted the sound. "Well, how did it go?" my aunt asked, feigning innocence she didn't have. I managed, "They rejected it." My uncle laughed, an ugly nasal sound. "A novel? You've always been too much of a dreamer, Matthias. Why don't you study law? Or maybe join Raphael at the bank?" My mother's silence stung more. She looked away, swallowing whatever she might have said. My cousin Luciana, perched at the kitchen table, snorted. "Nobody actually writes books anymore. Even if you did, nobody will read them." I dropped my bag in my room and stared at my laptop. Rain played soft percussion against my window. I should have learned by now, people here respected bank tellers, engineers, teachers, not storytellers or artists. Fear clawed at me. Still, somewhere under the humiliation, stubborn defiance simmered. Maybe I couldn't be what they wanted, but I could try to be something else. For the rest of that year, I survived by routine. I shelved books at the library, typed half-hearted essays, and secretly revised my manuscript at night when nobody bothered to check on me. Pages grew and changed, characters morphed, dialogue sharpened. The world inside my story felt safe, untouched by rain and mockery. It felt like freedom. 2 years passed like this. More family gatherings. More raised eyebrows. More fried pound de queijo placed with perfunctory politeness on my plate. My older brother, Raphael, bought a new car. Cousins got engaged, bought houses, posted their glossy lives on Instagram. I rewrote chapters, queried publishers, collected rejections. Nobody asked about my writing, except my grandmother. And she only tut-tutted, "Will you ever get a real job, Milbang?" Sometimes fear won. I spent afternoons walking aimlessly through Jardim Botânico, shoulders hitched, replaying Brandão's voice. It isn't a profession. Other days, the city's pulse, a steady percussion of buses and bicycles and cafe chatter, reminded me that nobody's dream really made sense until it did. So I pressed on for some invisible future, guided by something bone deep. Then, slowly, the world outside my window changed. Not the city's stubborn grayness, but mine. A small independent publisher in São Paulo replied after more than a year of silence. They thought the premise was unusual, but they saw promise in the voice, in the way the rain and concrete and old wounds ran like veins through my protagonist's story. We revised for months, 10 Zoom calls, paragraphs slashed and rebuilt. I learned to stop defending every sentence, learned to listen, learned that rejection could be a teacher. The book didn't emerge whole. It limped out, raw but alive. When it finally released, there was no fanfare. My name wasn't in newspapers. I organized my own launch at a tiny cafe near Largo da Urdam. Just enough chairs for friends and the polite acquaintances I'd gathered in literary corners of the city. At first, sales trickled, but then people started posting about the book, first under obscure hashtags, then with growing fervor. Book clubs picked it up. A teacher wrote to say she was teaching it in her secondary class. I reread her email, shaking. Still, success didn't come with fireworks. It came slow, a ripple, not a crash. But my family didn't notice. My mother asked if I'd considered translation work. My uncle chided that a hobby didn't pay. I moved to Sao Paulo for a year, picking up speaking gigs, running workshops, writing 2 more novels. The second, A Cidade Afogada, caught the notice of a larger publisher. Sales rose. Invitations came to festivals. Rio, Porto Alegre, Recife. My bank account crawled out of the red. I signed contracts, learned to file taxes as an autor independente. Then came the call, a major literary prize, one that everyone in Curitiba lusted after. My book was shortlisted. My face appeared in newspapers, on morning radio. Suddenly, friends from childhood, old classmates, cousins, all wanted to be photographed with me. My mother shyly sent clippings to her church group. The committee at the University Brandão, Silvia sent a formal invitation. Would I speak at a symposium on the value of creative risk and dreaming beyond the expected? I stared at the email for 20 minutes, heart pounding like I was 21 again. Was this relief or something closer to vindication? I agreed with one condition. I'd launch my next book, the 3rd one, in Curitiba. I wanted my family, the old neighbors, my childhood friends, even Silvia and Brandão to be there. My publisher agreed, eager for the local press. The weeks before my return, I barely slept. Every time I tried to draft my talk or prepare for interviews, my mind snagged on memories. The laughter when I described my first story, the chorus of "Nobody reads in Brazil," the echo of my uncle's bank job. Old wounds smarted, reopening in anticipation. The night before the event, I walked the familiar streets in a drizzle. Past the university, mosaics glistening under the wet, cars sloshing through puddles. I found myself at Passeio Público, peering through rusted gates at the park I'd crossed every morning to class, back when I still believed showing up was enough to be understood. Morning came like a held breath. The auditorium at the new cultural center, the old post office, freshly painted, was packed full. I watched from behind a curtain as my mother slipped into the 3rd row, lips pressed together, clutching a borrowed purse. My aunt adjusted her embroidered scarf. Luciana scrolled on her phone, only glancing up when the photographer circled. Brandão took the podium first. He cleared his throat, looked out at the audience. We have here today a former student with a remarkable story for his perseverance, not in research or analysis, but in creating a novel that has brought our city national attention. Please welcome Matthias Amaral. My knees went weak as I stepped out. Faces blurred, most unfamiliar, but some burned into my memory from years of glances that said, "Why not study something useful?" I began with a joke, voice thin at first. I spoke honestly about rejection, the pain of feeling invisible, about the empty bank account, the jokes made at family holidays. My accent grew stronger as I slipped back into the rhythm of home. Then, with my new novel in hand, I turned to the audience. I was told a novel isn't a profession in Curitiba, I said, holding up one of the first copies. But stories outlive us. When I was denied this dream, I thought it was over. But dreams, they mutate. They don't need permission. There was a hush. My mother's eyes filled. I sat at a table, ready to sign books. A line stretched down the hall. My uncle pushed forward, unsure, his bravado faltering. So this is your job? For real? I handed him a copy, signing his name in sprawling script. Yes, I said, voice steady, meeting his eyes. For real, I publish stories all over the country. He nodded, confused, jaw working silently. My aunt stammered, "We're proud, Mateus, you know?" Luciana took a quick photo and for once didn't roll her eyes. Later, Brundao stopped by, gray eyebrows raised. "I missed something when you were my student. Thank you for not letting that stop you." He squeezed my hand. This city needs dreamers, after all. Long after the event, I lingered in the empty hall, the mingled smells of coffee and old wood hanging in the air. My mother waited for me in the back, her hands clasped as if in prayer. We walked together arm in arm out into the drizzle. The city pulsed as always, brutal and indifferent, but I no longer shrank from it. At our apartment, she brewed tea, bustling with silent energy. The walls, once full of doubts, now gleamed with clippings and book covers. My father's old armchair faced the window, rain burnishing the glass in silver. As I unpacked my bag, she pressed a hand to my shoulder. "You did it, Filio," she whispered, awe and apology mingling in her voice. "And you never let us stop you." I laughed, shaking with relief. I had to prove it to myself.